G'day guys, how you going? Old Fellas Travels, I'm Mike. Alright, this is going to be the first video of what essentially is going to be the trip for pretty much next year, but we're kicking off now. We're heading to Western Australia, off to the West Australian goldfields, but on the way over there we'll head back down, right back down south, down to Augusta, out through Esperance, and we'll do all that area down there leading up to Christmas, where the beaches are beautiful, it's nice and cool, the weather's perfect. You know, before Christmas it's not too busy either. So that's the plan, but plans always change. I'm late getting over there. I was planning to be in WA within a couple of days, but that hasn't happened for various reasons. I'm currently at a, I can't remember what it's called now. I'll post it on the video when I get it up, but this is just a free camp stopover. It's about 30 minutes out of Gloucester, north of Gloucester in New South Wales. It's a beautiful campsite. I'm up on the top here only because I'm doing a video and I didn't want to be disturbing people down there. So it's an amazing spot. It's pretty well cleaned up, beautiful green grass. Had a lot of rain up here, not too boggy, a few cattle getting around. But the purpose of this video, and there'll be a few, is I want to have a quick chat about the end result of the Cape York trip on my cruiser. And I'm not a wealthy man, well, not yet anyway. Maybe the goldfields might change that, one would hope. But at the end of the day, I haven't got a large sum of money to throw around to keep the cruiser, you know, in supreme running order as I like to keep my vehicle. So I'm going to have a quick chat about that. No regrets for doing the TeleTrack and doing that trip. It was one of the best trips I've been on so far. It was just fantastic with a group of guys, and no doubt some of you would have seen the series, but it's very hard on the vehicle, and you can do the Cape trip obviously and see the key features such as Fruitbat Falls and that without giving your vehicle a good old workout. And if it's your only vehicle, your daily driver, and you've invested a bit of cash into it and you can't afford to have a high maintenance bill throughout the life of the vehicle, you can still do Cape York and that without having to knock it around. But let's wander over the vehicle anyway. So I've got the old Dot going again with a few mods. I've pulled everything off of the cruiser, cut the wind resistance right down. Geez, it's nice to drive now, nice and quiet. Very little wind noise, which is fantastic. Now I've taken the awning, the freestanding awning, off of the cruiser, and I've put it on the Dot. Works really, really well actually. I thought it might be a bit small, but it's not, and I've got a couple of walls for it. So there's the Dot, the rooftop tent, Wildlands rooftop tent, Drifter Stockton, Wildlands rooftop tent. That's come off the cruiser also. That's down there, and it just works so just fantastic. But and there's the cruiser there. As always, she's looking a bit tidier now. But we'll have a quick talk about the cruiser, because essentially that's what the purpose of this video is, to talk about the cruiser, and then there'll be another video about the new setup with more detail, etc, etc, etc. So let's talk about the cruiser. I'll just close that door up so she looks a bit tidier. I've put a new set of shelves in the back, which I have put on Instagram, had a bit of a discussion about, but we'll talk about that in more detail. I love the setup now, the gold wing doors. I'll talk about that in another video when I go over how we fared. I'll be in WA and we'll go over everything of what's changed on the cruiser and what's changed on the Dot. But for now, let's have a quick look at the cruiser. But the first thing we'll look at is the old scrub bar. So now, I ummed and ahed about putting those scrub bars on, but they're worth their weight in gold. I've got to tell you, they've saved me $3,000 or $4,000, maybe even $5,000 in damage, because if we look here, now you should be able to see that, the light's not that great, but that's been taken off right down to bare metal, and it's actually starting to rust a little bit. I'm going to have to get onto it, but I'm planning on pulling this off and eventually coating it with sort of a very fine rhino guard or something like that. So a few scratches there, not a mark on the front, even though we dropped down quite hard on the underneath there. Didn't even put a mark in the guard. So everything at the front fared pretty well. A few scuffs here, but most of the scuffs was on the left hand side. No snorkel damage. So no damage to the vehicle until we get back to about here. Now I dropped down into a bank and we'll have a little bit of a move there. So you can see I've got an indentation there. It's not that noticeable, to be honest, unless you're in a certain light. It's quite obvious there, but standing back a bit you may not even notice it's there, which not only put this impression in there, which is substantial, but we also dropped down, and as we bounced off the guard we've managed to crack the guards there. Now I haven't had a quote on having that repaired, but I imagine there wouldn't be much change out of a couple of grand. Obviously, being on the TeleTrack, I'm doubtful I'm going to get insurance. But in all honesty, that was actually my fault. I was catching up a bit. I really wasn't paying 100% attention, and oopie-doo, before you know it, I drop into a fairly large rut. Both wheels come off the ground on the other side of the vehicle. I actually thought I was going to go on my side, and the valve was getting a little bit tight, I've got to tell you. But we dropped back down on the wheels fairly quickly, and I knew I'd done some damage. How much I'd done I didn't know, but I got out, and to be perfectly honest, I'm really happy with the outcome, because I thought it was going to be much, much worse. You know, I could see the side of the vehicle caved in. So all went very well. There's no other damage under. I've had a look around, no other damage, you know, apart from that. So that's good. But the other thing that I didn't notice until I pulled the solar panel and the racks off, when I moved everything across to the dot, was this here. So that's a bit untidy. It's a very, very, it's probably not even dented, I'd say. However, it's where the roof rack, and I don't think it was in the same incident, but it may have very well been, a lot of the vehicles suffered with damage to the awnings, or marks, tears to the awnings, and roof rack problems, either the roof rack coming off or the roof rack, you know, getting bent a little bit. A lot of those entries and extras now on the old TeleTrack are really cut out. There's no, I seen videos and I thought, yeah, I'll take the chicken tracks where I feel, you know, like I want to, and it was actually my intention to take a lot of the chicken tracks, but there is no chicken tracks anymore, guys. The old TeleTrack has been so smashed, and honestly, there was traffic jams, and we were late in the season too, and there's people that were still going a month after, you know, right into the end of August, people are still doing the TeleTrack. But at the end of the day, the TeleTrack doesn't have any chicken tracks anymore. It's been so hammered, and with late seasons and extra rain and everything, every entry and every exit is basically gunshot to varying degrees. So you've got to be very lucky to get away without even a scratch on your vehicle. I think I probably fared the worst with that main dent on the side. If it hadn't been for lack of judgment on my behalf, that wouldn't have happened, and I wouldn't have ended up with that. The only damage I would have ended up with would have been the scrapes on the brush bars. But those brush bars, geez, I'm glad I got them. And if I was ever to do another vehicle, which I possibly may in a couple of years, I would certainly be doing brush guards again, and I'd just suck up the fact that I'm going to add another 150 kilos or whatever it may be to the vehicle. So, apart from that, the old Cruiser, being only a bit over 2 years old, has fared pretty well. I've put new tyres on since then, and I don't run those covers anymore, because I've found that you'd be surprised how often you get a little bit of looseness in your wheel nuts. And to be honest, it's a pain in the ass checking your wheel nuts with those covers on, because you have to pop them off. And so I just leave them off. I don't think it looks too bad. I'm actually going to be going for new rims in about 6 months anyway. Of this time, because they didn't have the Toyos, I've actually gone for the... Now, I never gave much thought to the Goodyear Wranglers, and when I went into the Gloucester tyre shop, those guys are really good, by the way, and they actually did a really good wheel alignment. So thanks, guys. I'll post up the video up here somewhere, maybe down there somewhere anyway, on what the actual name is. But those guys did a good job for me. So alright guys, now for the nitty gritty of it all. $2,000 the service cost me, so which was incurred mostly because I wanted to ensure that I didn't have any contamination in the oils and such. So I did ask to have all the oil changed, and they said even the transferring gearbox. I said yeah, and they go, we don't normally change that. And I said, well, you know, my vehicle, I'm paying for it, I want it changed. And they said, well, all right, we'll do it if that's what you want. And even the mechanic said, why are we doing all this? And they said that's what the customer wants. So a lot of water crossings, no water contamination in diffs, transfer case, gearboxes, etc. All 4 wheel bearings had water contamination. Now, I was trying to work out what the deal was there. I thought it might be to do with breathers, but after you know, discussing with some guys and that, and certainly on the front, the breathers have no bearing, I suppose, no influence on the bearings in the front, certainly, as far as I'm aware. And I think it was the right hand rear, which I've had a little bit of a noise that I haven't been able to sort out. It was getting considerably worse, and it was quite bad actually. It didn't sound like a wheel bearing, it sounded like something rubbing, but by the time I got it in for the service, they rang me up, water contamination. I said, look, I don't care what the bearing's like, replace all the bearings. And they said, but the rear right hand bearing is about to collapse. So 4 wheel bearings replaced, 1 had to be replaced, the others had contamination in the grease, but I didn't even question the condition. I just said just replace them all. So 4 new wheel bearings, all good to go. So all up there was about a $2,000 spend, and I don't begrudge paying that, to be honest, because I like to keep my vehicles in, you know, A1 mechanical condition if I can, and it's always paid off in the past because, you know, I've always touched wood, I've always had a good run out of my vehicles, and they've always been very saleable because, you know, full service history, all the paperwork and anything that's been done, and people can see how clean and tidy, you know, the mechanics of the vehicles, I keep it. But apart from that, I'm really happy with the way the Cruiser went. Drives very well, fantastic off-road, exceeded my expectations. The lockers are just crackerjack. Geez, you know, like, you really did need the lockers in a couple of places. I am going to fit a set of elevated breathers, proper breathers, to diff, transfer case, gearbox and such once I get to Perth. But apart from that, all went well. Touch wood, no problems on the trip, and touch wood, we don't have any more problems as a result of the trip, but I don't think so, because I've had Toyota go through it pretty well. So that's about it for this video. That's it. It's a beautiful day. I'm going to finish up with the recordings, whack the files away, and maybe cook up a bit of steak for me and Barnes for lunch, and sit down, have a beer and enjoy the rest of the afternoon. See you guys. Take care. If you haven't subscribed, don't forget to subscribe and tick that bell so you get all the future notifications. And if you like the video, you know, even if you're not subscribed, if you like, someone else coming in. If you like the video, and even if you're not subscribed, give it a like. Feel free to whack down the comments. I generally, as a rule, reply to all comments same day, but generally you get a response from me the same day, or certainly within 24 hours. Alright guys, that's it. Look after each other. Old fella's off the grog, but by all means, you have another beer. Doctor's orders, unfortunately. So I'm only a social drinker these days, apart from this afternoon. We can say it's social. Me and Barnes are having a social event, but it'll only be 1 beer today. And look after each other, look after your family, and by all means, look after yourself, guys. Men's health is important as well as ladies, but if something doesn't feel right, guys, get yourself in and get it checked, and that goes for you ladies as well. Very important. See you guys next video. Cheers.